Good to go.
Hi John.
Hey Catherine, how are you? Comment ça va?
Ça va bien, toi?
Ah, bien. Love
Bien?
it. Yes, I'm great. Better for seeing you. It's
Yeah.
great. Better for being here.
It's been a long time.
It has.
Yeah.
COVID does that to us. Time gets away. Time. What is David Bowie? Time
Yeah.
like a cigarette slips through your fingers.
Yeah. How's it been for you?
It's been good. I've been busy. I've been working. I've been flying around the country, doing a few gigs, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Running things from Sanctum Sanctorum. I'm up in my shooting studio right now, but I have a green screen and all of that stuff. And this is my subdued blue panel. So I've been running things from here pretty much with the help of my agents and my bevy of great agents. And it's been pretty good as far as things go. And as you know, I teach as well at Toronto Film School. So I've been doing a lot of Zoom classes, usually about 30 hours a week sort of thing between formatting plays. We did a great play with one of our groups. We do them every term, but I had the opportunity to direct an adaptation of a Strindberg play, the Dream Play, and we turned it into the Quarantine Dream Play. So we've been working with a lot of that kind of thing, seeing how much we can get with Zoom and the backdrops. It's pretty easy in terms of auditioning and Zoom auditions. Rather be in the room, of course, with the casting directors and with my beloved producers and directors and things like that. But it's been pretty good. For me, I'm up in the Corthus, so I'm in my house and I got my studio, and so I'm pretty happy. Like I said, I've flown around a couple of times. They had me out shooting out in Sault Ste. Marie on a film called Cascade, Egidio Cocciamiglio directed. It's coming out this year sometime, but it's going to be quite exciting. And then most importantly, I got flown out to Kamloops to partake in a project called Bones of Crows about the Indigenous First Nations problems in Canada from 1860 all the way up to modern day. With the residential schools stories, and it follows kind of one family over the course of 100 years. So I got to go out and play a nasty Indian land agent, and tried to do my best.
Well, I know that for a lot of us actors, like the audition have reduced from a lot because of COVID. So like, how is it for you? Like, did you, like, I can see you've still been auditioning for a lot of projects, but like, how, like, has it affected you in any ways?
Well, the industry certainly hasn't stopped, and with Netflix and Crave and all the Hulu, everything, a few of them are falling by the wayside, but there's still a lot of demand for products. So I know a lot of my peers and colleagues and young friends and alumni grads are working, which is nice.
Yeah.
People are still shooting commercials. People are still so, because the film industry operates on a pretty tight ship, anyways, on a set. We didn't have too much trouble adapting to following because when you're on set, you got to follow the rules. You just go in crazy and chaotic, and you got your first ADs, you got your team. You can only enter certain sound stages, so you have to abide by the rules. We almost with the discipline of a military troop, So for us, it wasn't that bad a problem. I think more for the crew, where you're working 10, 12-hour days and they have to be masked all the time. Us actors, we get to take off our masks in some of the shoots. They have to remind you. You step in and okay, back to ones, line it up, guys, and guys, remember masks. And we all take off our masks. So it's been a challenge. Absolutely, it would be much better without that kind of restriction upon it. But we're doing it, and they've adapted, and things are pretty safe. When I was on set, the number of times I've been on set this year, sometimes you get tested every 4 hours. You get tested when you come in for the day, and then tested again at lunch. I'm double vax boosted, so that's been, part and parcel of the whole thing. But I've been trying to look at it. This is an unprecedented situation for entertainers and actors. Never before have we been in this kind of world where we still have access. And I kind of try to think of it like being an avant-garde, what did they do during, the Second World War? I mean, we still have some survivors and stuff still around, but for the most part, those stories about, what did they do in the ruins of Berlin? What did they do in the ruins of Paris? How did they keep going in England during the Blitz? Shakespeare, of course, wrote 3 of his great plays during the bubonic plague. They were locked down in London for 3 years. Just like that. And he wrote King Lear, he wrote the Scottish play, with all its superstitions and darknesses, so, being part and parcel of that kind of continuance. And it's nothing that we haven't been through before as a species, as on the planet. And just to cap off of that, I recently was invited to submit a chapter to the Springer Scholastics, a Springer publishing book, entitled Teaching in the Post-COVID Era.
Yes.
So that article I chose, the essay I wrote, was about the survival of actors and the survival of theater, and that the show will go on. The show must go on, and the show will go on. And we dig the theater out of the rubble. We find the smashed editing equipment, and we put it back together, and we keep on going. So that's a little plug for teaching or whatever by Springer Scholastics, and that was a big deal getting published in that. And there's like a collection of international teachers and professional entertainers and things, and pundits talking about this. So I think there's a number of chapters. It's going to be available pretty soon, but it'll be in reference libraries for sure. But it's a big, huge tome. It's great. So yours truly. There's a lot of good people involved in that. Joe Cummings at Yorkville University and Toronto Film School, and Ismail Fayed put it together.
There's been a lot of moving around in the school. Like I've heard, obviously I'm still on a break from the school right now to be able to work and gain my money to be able to live in Toronto and afford the life of a student, which is something that a lot of my co-students, like the students that I talk to a lot, are going through also. And
absolutely. And we definitely need to be aware of that for sure. As a instructor and as a team of faculty member, as well as being, a professional actor and dealing with all sorts of things, because we're put in situations where, in spite of yourself, you might get into that situation where you walk into a hot Omicron kind of place. A few of we've been pretty good at TFS. It's been pretty great. I know even after the schools went back, all of a sudden people go down because of their little brothers and sisters who are coming back from school, and suddenly everybody's like, I got COVID. I didn't, luckily. I've been but
I actually was sick last week. I got what we believe is COVID, but in Toronto we cannot get tested unless you're asymptomatic. So anyways.
Well, it's a little bit of a hot mess. So I think by the spring we're going to do some changes, and all we can do is keep holding the line and standing in that shield wall, and do the right thing.
Well, I am actually doubly vaccinated, so I am not boosted yet because I have to go back to Quebec to get it. But
at least
I am doubly vaccinated. Yeah, exactly.
And your lungs won't get full of fluid. Like that's
exactly.
People forget, right? They go, well, I was double vaccinated and we got it anyway, so it's the deal. It's all and it's like, we won't go too far into this because there's lots of chats and
Yeah.
farts. But
just to come
the
back
fact
to
is that
the
those people who get it only get mild symptoms, and
yeah,
as compared to a year ago when they would have
yeah,
died, panting in a hotel room
yeah.
somewhere. I mean,
A lot of people had it very badly.
I know a few. They always go, well, if you know anybody who died of COVID, and yeah,
Yeah.
quite a few actually.
Not directly towards me. I don't know anybody directly towards me that like died from it, but I do know a couple of people that like their family members died from it, and
Yeah.
et cetera and et cetera. So
Well, we got to be wise, and I think
Yeah.
even as entertainers, I know we're not frontline workers in that case.
Yeah.
In terms of what they're doing in the hospitals and stuff, but I do consider us in terms of the storyteller idea that we have to keep people entertained. We have to, like in the old tribal societies when things got down, it was always the shamans and the storytellers that went, whoa, remember, as bad as it looks now, it's gonna get better.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Here, let me juggle some heads for you.
But just to come back to the subject of acting, though.
Yes, exactly. I'll bring it. Alas, Poetic, I knew him.
Yeah.
Well, Rachel.
Present to us your friend.
Well, it's the Hamlet. I keep him close, but actually, he's the Joker. As you can see, he got melted when Halloween. So we call him the skull of the Joker. Alas, poor Joker. I knew him well. Why so serious? Well, things are serious right now, Joke. They really are. Oh, humor is always a good.
Well, actually, I have a question for you.
Let's see.
Okay, yes. What is the acting process for you when you're about to start being someone else as a role? So
right.
In the moment before or the minutes before you're on set, and then the minutes before they scream action. What is the process that's going into your mind to put you in this character's shoes and like go on with it?
Excellent. Great. Yeah, great place to start. I use a bunch of different I use what I call my toolbox, where I'll have certain things in the toolbox pending on the role, pending on the genre, pending on the style, whether comedy, drama, feature film, television show, etc., etc. So I used method. We'll talk about that a little bit later too. I use technique. I use all sorts of different things in my toolbox to get where I need to go. But I always feel it's kind of like I sink into it. Not in a bad way of sinking, but just of like going into it like in water, where it just comes up around you, and then I enfold myself in it, which is also the exterior of the costume, which the Brits talk about from the exterior to the interior. If as soon as I get the nose, as soon as I get the cape, I'll find the character. The American style, American method, or North American method, it's kind of like working him from the inside out, and then allowing that stuff to build in layers and layers of behavior and psychology, etc. So using a combination of both, I sort of consider myself sinking into it, feeling it from the guts. The character starts to possess me in a good way, and then the enfolding and the enmeshing is kind of part of that costume. I consider putting on the mantle of the character, and once it comes on, it's like an old comfortable cloak, right? And then I'm in the character, so I can do that pretty quickly, going from a noisy waiting room into the sanctum sanctorum of the audition, when you're in the room auditioning for the director, and you get past that little bit of, hi, how are you, thanks for coming in, John, thank you for having me, great.
Yeah.
No, let's do one, and then I'll talk about it, because I'm kind of in the zone. I wouldn't say that out loud, but you kind of keep your focus, and no, I'm good, I think I'll show you what I got, and then we'll go from there. And then from that moment on, you're not like turning around like you do in the theater, because you won't get the part. But it's just allowing the character to kind of like from the toes up, it just kind of comes up like a flood over me. overwhelms me, and then, and now I am that person. Yeah, whatever that voice choice might be. So again, Kat, it often depends on genre. Like I said, you want to be aware of the show you're auditioning for. You don't want to go in blind. You're going in for a comedy and it's got a particularly loose style or a particularly irreverent style. You want to be able to find that. Contrarily, when you're going in for a drama, you want to be able to stay in that that quiet place, that still place. So for me, it's from the inside out and then also from the outside in. But I use both American method and British technique with that. So enfolding it,
Yeah, definitely. And what would you say would be the role that you could never conventionally play, but you would want to, or you would like to play anyways?
The leading man. When you asked me that question, and I thought about it, and I thought the hero, but I often play anti-heroes. I often play villains. I don't try to. Sometimes you play bad guys. Sometimes you twist the mustache.
You've been in roles that is also in between.
Yes.
Like Against the Wild, you were this agent that was looking for the kids and everything, but then something happens and you have to kind of make a really hard decision towards okay, I have to go help these people. And
yes, and I love that movie because Richard Boddington, he kind of uses me as the kind of inept hero because it's always the dog that is the dog is really the hero, and Natasha's character always has to rescue me, the rescuer, right? I end up attacked by the wolf or something. Yes, I have played nice guys, and I played good men, and I played, and not that I love it all. I'm a character actor. I like to play. I was listening to Jamie Dornan the other day talking about Belfast, and he was saying, I just like to have the opportunity to live in a whole bunch of different skins. Lisa Patterson, one of the great casting directors in Toronto, and Sonny Grosso back in the day when they were casting kind of these cop shows and dramas and crime dramas. And, she used to say, Johnny, you're always on the money. We love bringing you in for a bad guy. So I would go from role to role where I was always playing these psychos or killers or gun guys and drop the gun. So they knew I could do it, and they knew I enjoyed doing it, and I did it well. So then you sort of get seen like that. And then when those roles come up, we call it round up the usual suspects. They're going to go to that, coterie of men or women that play those kind of roles. And after many years in this business, and counting now, I believe I just crossed my 165th speaking role or on IMDb. But out of the 160 odd speaking roles that I've had the opportunity to play in, I've been killed 71 times. So my last film I shot, both of them actually. Sorry.
Yeah, I think we actually spoke about that in the first podcast that we did together.
And the number is climbing as we speak. So obviously they like to set me up with characters that they like to kill. I die well. I've had a lot of experience with it, and I've researched it extensively. Where does a person go after all of that kind of stuff? So so it's an honor. It's an honor to be able to be called upon for that. But the stern hero, I'm still hoping out for one of those like Clint Eastwood Western type roles where I'm actually it seems like I'm the bad guy at the beginning, and then it turns into the good guy, sort of bad exterior with the good heart, and more good heart, like that he's the hero. I love heroes, and the hero guys that play heroes always say, it's boring to play the hero and the leading love guy. I'd love to play a villain, and so we're always talking about, let's switch roles.
I think as a human being, we're all good guys and bad guys at every moment in our life. Absolutely. And Absolutely. It's really nice to be able to go deeper into how can I develop that character into something that is close to home, but without crossing some lines that are
that's where I say I don't try not to play bad guys. An actor friend of mine, William Forsyth, who's great, the great William Forsyth, said, "I don't play bad guys. I play conflicted, challenged gentlemen." And it's, well, sometimes he played bad guys, but when he played Al Capone, he was just trying to get things done, right? Of course, in history we know, but those kind of people where it's much more interesting to go multi-layered on them. And there's a great First Nations statement. We have two wolves inside of us. One's a good wolf and one's a bad wolf. One's a good wolf, one's an evil wolf. And it's like, which one lives? And it's the one you feed. So, we have to be duty bound to be conscious of that. We can create our own evil, our own badness within us. And those that relish it, like, the amoralist as compared to the immoralist, where we get Iago, where, he just loves to do that.
You know what? It's actually somebody that I auditioned for at some point was telling me, they asked me, which name do you identify as? And that's for people who believe in name and signification of the name and everything. But because I identify with a K, the way my name is written on the screen right now, but my real name, my actual birth name, is with a C. And both names have completely different signification. And it's really interesting to see, like, when you have different name, is it because you identify to that name for a certain reason or no? I thought it was a very, like, weird question, but in the same time, it was something that was kind of interesting and intriguing to go deeper into, for my part.
I believe it. Sure, maybe it's identification and things like that. We always, there's a certain glorious schizophrenia, I suppose, that goes along with our work. But it's like even having handles on social media and stuff. And I mean, there's certain people who call me Tench. There's certain people who call me Johnny. Like, I'm basically, to my sisters and stuff and my friends, I'm kind of Johnny or Johnny. So I've got certain handles, T-Bone. Right? But what was interesting was when I got T-Bone in Watch Dogs. That was actually one of my nicknames from high school. Johnny T-Bone, man, what's going on? And so
it was suiting you.
Movie saw that, right? Because originally the character, they had different names for him, and then when I heard T-Bone, I laughed, and they said, "What?" And I said, "That's my nickname from high school," or it's still like people.
Who knows? Maybe if you would look into the signification of T-bones, it would be something that resemble you.
Absolutely, the John T. But and then certain places, certain people will call me, like my agent. Hi John. They'll never call me Tenchy, or certain people will ask I let people the captain or Tench or. So it's all good, but names are absolutely strength. They're we talking about in Harry Potter. Talking about one of the franchises, but it's done now. But there were so many. But in Harry Potter, Snape and Sirius Black, actually, with the naming thing. And that's an old tradition that J.K. Rowling has sort of copied from early societies, Necronomicon and stuff like that, where if you have the name of somebody, you have the power of over them. And certain like Boudicca and certain of the Celtic leaders and Caradoc and things like that, they wouldn't reveal their name to the Romans because it was like only my family knows my name.
Yeah, and it is to have a power over somebody to know their real name.
Yeah, and the middle name traditionally was your secret name.
And you see that in everything. You see that in religion. You see that in paganism. You see that in witchcraft. You see that in everything.
You see it in accounting. Because like we have, that your name is needed, your mother's maiden name. If people get access to your mother's maiden name, like sometimes when I put stuff on the internet, and I'm like, "Ooh, do I have to be concerned about that now?" And of course, predictive algorithms and data theft. And it comes back to that. If you know my name and you know my picture, and you want to cause me harm, now you can. If you don't know my name, and think about pre-photographs, right? When you had sketches of the wanted, well, and it was like, has he got a mustache? I don't know. Last time he did, and then they're looking for a completely different guy. Facial recognition. I can't.
Yeah. I was actually looking at one of your picture on your IMDb, and it's a picture. I think it's in black and white, but you don't have your beard. And I was like, "Wait, is that John?"
Yeah, and that's the shapeshifter aspect to it. Really, truly, he knows my name, and that comes up into social media even these days. Like, I often talk to my students and my alumni about that. Like, make sure you've got a social media handle that people can access. That you're not skittypest123 or Zingnut 555. Like, how did I know that was you?
Yeah, exactly.
In what possible universe would I know you were Zingnut 555?
Yeah,
it's like
one thing that people are gonna remember out of you is your name.
Yeah, but it is a protective thing, right? Because they don't want. I don't want you to know my name. I want you to know me as Zingnut 555.
Yeah.
And the anonymity of that. But there is real no anonymity. They can always trace it back to the source. So that's why I figure I'm an open book. People know who John Tench is. I'm John Tench. That's it. Johnny Tenchy. But it's basically that you want to find me. That's how you can.
Well, I call you Captain T.
Oh, thank you. Captain, my captain. And that was when that came from somebody finding in Australia, there's this place in Sydney called Captain Tench's Arcade. One of my students sent me that. They had that on their, they actually brought it when I was in Vancouver.
So just to come back a little bit towards the movies and being an actor and everything, I feel like as an actor myself, there's always a role or a specific franchise that we're all dreaming ourselves into. And like, what would be the one that you wish you could play in?
In a franchise or in a there's a lot, as I mentioned earlier. Of course, there's my favorite. So I'll start with the first thing I jotted down, and of course, it's always what first comes to mind. Was Lord of the Rings. Obviously, I'd love to be in a kind of a sword and sandal. And one of the things about Lord of the Rings, seeing how I've been reading the book since I was young, and when Peter Jackson and a dear friend of mine and I, who are kind of Lord of the Rings aficionados, we went to the first movie that Peter Jackson put out, and we'd been to the Ralph Bakshi one, and it was like nobody got it right. And then when Jackson came out with the first one, it was like yes. And I felt like when I tell you about those, when we go, there's a place in the world we go to, and we sit in the dark, and that's the cinema, and we sit there with hundreds of other people, and we stare at the screen. We just get and that's one of the ones for me. So Game of Thrones is in that same category. They're doing are still, but it's kind of weird with COVID. They were shooting that in Romania and stuff. They started the second installment of GOT, the Fire and Ice, I believe, with Emily Moon, I think, in the role.
Yeah, I'm actually excited to see what they're doing with that.
It's going to be great. So I tried to go after that one. I wanted that one. I got my agent to inquire about casting, and they often cast unknowns, and they're cast on site in Bulgaria and stuff. And they were a lot of it in Eastern Europe, but also in London. So, for example, in Lord of the Rings, when I heard it was coming out, I heard about it before it was produced, of course. And I tried to get my Vancouver agent to get on top of it. She said, no, they're only seeing lead British guys, leading men. And, or people who've had big features. And I'd had a few big features. And I was like, Lisa, come on. And sure enough, when it came out, it was kind of like, Vigo stole my look. And, originally Peter Jackson. So I have a thing about that. And then, those are things that because I've been trained in sword, I've been trained in horse, I've been trained in, it's a kind of a series that I've built and designed for. Mm-hmm. If I was like an android actor that they had designed to be in a show like Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones, Vikings. Although Vikings was very muddy and very dirty, I heard.
Yeah, I think I think you would be a really good candidate to play in Vikings.
I had an audition. I didn't get it. They often bring you in for big, series regulars or big arcs. And because again, they've got the guys in Ireland and Iceland that and Norway that can fill the smaller roles. So they're not going to fly you in to play a day player or something like that.
Yeah.
So usually when you audition, it's for some of the big ones. And I got beaten up by one of my friends, and it was okay, but it was 6 months up in Iceland and 2 months in Ireland. And
honestly, it would have been a dream for me. I dream to visit those countries.
It would have been great. So, there's a lot of things that go into casting, a lot of choices. The guy actually they ended up using in one of the 2 parts I went out for, they actually used an Icelandic-based actor who they went on to go back with them in Ireland and stuff. So they used a local hire on that. And he's kind of he's a good actor, but he's an action actor. He's kind of more like a stunt guy and things, which is the need for the sword fight. But he hadn't done too much before he booked that role. He'd been doing Icelandic theater in Reykjavik and doing a few Icelandic TV shows, and maybe occasionally flying to London to England to be in a show, or Ireland. But he only had a few credits, and then bang, he got Vikings. So that's often how it can happen. And I have no regrets. I have no remorse or any kind of it's what it is, man. You go out for the role, at least you get to be seen for it, and you never know where that's going to lead. So franchises are big because they're house buying money, right? I mean, they're millions.
Well, speaking about being big and making money out of the work of an actor, how would you say that your fame has affected your life? Would you say that can you go out and without being recognized, do you feel privileged to be an actor in that way? Or
absolutely. I mean, I'm privileged. I'm white, growing up in in the 70s and 80s and 90s in Canada, and working in Canada and having the opportunity to work in a lot of runaway productions from the States. So big shows that sort of came to our door. Toronto, through my years as an actor, has gone from basically a theater town with a couple of TV shows, a couple of local King of Kensington and Beachcombers and shows like that, CBC shows, to being a hit in terms of the number of series we've got, representing $5 billion worth of work. Build a better mousetrap and they'll beat it past your door. So because of Toronto International Film Festival, they love shooting here. They love our crews. They love our cast. They will cast locals in big leading roles. So, so I think that's one of the things. Being in LA and stuff, I got recognized more in LA than Canada because we don't really have a star system. I mean, I've had people come up and ask me for autographs, but in Canada, it's always very. I mean, it's so genuine and so sincere, and I love it when I am. I mean, it's not a lot, I no frills, but I'll have people staring at me. And you have to hold yourself back. And this happened to me once, where some guy was staring at me, and I went,
"I know you.
Can I help you? Can I help you, buddy? What do you want?"
Yeah.
Said, "No, sorry, I'm just." And within a second or two, I realized, oh. And he said, "No, I just are you on TV? Are you an actor?" And I immediately kind of took the bristles down. It was kind of like some Galaxy Quest where I was like, "You looking at me, pal? Yeah, can I help you with something, dude?" So those are the characters I play, and he was a big sort of guy just looking at me with this kind of challenging expression, like kind of like. So at first I took a front, and then I kind of realized. And he knew me from Murdoch Mysteries or from some show, so I was like, "Oh, thanks, yeah, John Tench." I've had people come up in bars and buy me drinks, and as William Forsyth once went, we were at this bar and people kept buying them, coming more to him, but I got included in the largesse they were feeding him, and they kept bringing him drinks, like tequila shots. "Gonna buy you a drink here, I'll buy you a drink," and then so I'd take one and kind of like a shooter or something, and he put his hand on my wrist and said, "Just because they buy them for you doesn't mean you have to drink them. Just acknowledge." And then he calls over the bartender, "Bobby, can you take this and put it down behind the bar, please?" And then after a while, I looked behind the bar and he goes, "See, like there's 10 drinks, man. If I drank all those drinks, everybody, I take a little tiny sip, put it down, and either I give it away to somebody else, or you see those 2 girls over there, can you send them those 2 Mai Tais? Because I can't. So you got to be polite. You always got to be on your best behavior in that sense. And in my way, if I do get recognized or get asked for an autograph, it's always, gracious and wonderful, and I'm happy to be recognized. So I try not to gush.
Yeah.
Oh, you know me? Oh.
Yeah. I'm an actor.
I turn it like seriously.
Yeah.
And that's always fun. But one of the last things I wanted to say about that was, fan expos and things like that. It can get a little bit mobby. And one time at Fan Expo, I just finished my session. It was a big kind of group thing for all the EB games and the gaming pavilion. And I was up on the big platform, and we were doing signings and talking to the fans and giving them Watchdogs throwaways and giveaways and freebies. And at the end of it, and it was a massive, massive crowd, like huge, just not football stadium, but it looked like it. And I'm standing there, and then we finish, and the coordinator comes up and he goes, "Okay, Johnny, when you go back, we'll take you back to the VIP lounge, and but we're going to get 2 guys to just escort you, 2 guys from our security." And I was like, "Oh no, cool, man. I'll walk back. I'll just press the flash." And they went, "No, you can't. They'll mob you. Like, so we'll open the back door. Robin will go first, then you go, and then Jerry will come up behind you, and you go in a little conduit to the door of the VIP room." And I was like, "Okay, seriously?" And he said, "Yeah, they'll try to grab you." So we launch, right? And it's like literally, "Okay, ready, John? Ready? Yeah. Robbie, Jerry, good. Yeah, and go." Door opens, and we start going through like I've got they've got their hand on my back, and I've got sort of my hand on him, and we're just going through the crowd, crossing it, and people are going, "It's T-Bone, T-Bone," and they start yelling and reaching.
Oh my God.
And one guy gets his hand on my hair, and I'm like, "Dude, let go of the hair, man, let go of the hair," and the security guard knocks him away. So we get through the crowd, and it was literally like not quite Beatlemania, but almost. So I'm there kind of going, "Wow. Oh, that was exciting." And literally not ripped T-shirt, but
the adrenaline.
They said they're not rabid. They just want to touch you. They want to. And even in that, standing up in front of them when they did their chant, and it was like T-Bone's in the house. T-Bone, T-Bone, and that sort of Roman power that you feel. It's like, you were all individuals. So it's a lot of fun, but at the same time, like I said, in LA, it's more people come up to you and, "Oh my God, it's you," and you kind of sign a quick thing.
Yeah, I feel like when you're in LA, there's this like star kind of effect, like
there's a
you
lot
made
of tourists
it to LA, kind of.
Sure, or they're looking askance at you, like I said, that one guy in the lineup, where he's kind of. Get that a lot. Like, do I know you? No, you probably see me on TV. Right. And then we hook it up and, "Oh my God, you were in Supernatural." And then I'm like, she's look at the time, gotta go. Thanks, And some of them engage you. Some of them are a little bit, very obsessed. You got to be careful about it. But I think it's a two-way street. And in Canada, we don't really have that star system as much as kind of like a recognition of the artists. Like, good work, man.
More respectful, more private.
A little bit, a little bit less. But at the Fan Expos, it's gleeful. That's what it's for. That's why we're there.
Yeah.
So you got to sort of go along.
So would you say that, like, is it worth it? Like, if you weren't an actor right now, would you still have been an actor?
Oh, that like, if I wasn't an actor, what would I rather do as a career?
Rock
star. That's what I wrote down. Rock star. I would have. There was a point, and like anybody else who played guitar, and I came from a very musical family, and I was trained singing wise in St. Matthew's Boys Choir, and we used to sing Oliver and all the musicals, Fiddler on the Roof and all that. So I grew up very musically, and then my brother played guitar, and my sister played piano, we all played guitar, and then I got in with a few friends of mine, in college sort of, and doing bands. And I was traveling a lot as an actor when I was studying in New York and London, so I was pretty tied in. When I worked in London, I was working at night, like my second job when I was studying there at the college. My dad said, "Well, we're about tuition, don't you? He said, we'll help you out, but you got to get a job, man. And I'm in school. Yeah, well, not in the afternoon till 2 o'clock in the morning, get a job in a bar. And I took his advice, and that's how I kept my dream alive about being a bartender in big power bars, big music bars and stuff, the Big Bop in Toronto. So in London, I worked at the venue at Victoria with Richard Branson's club from Virgin, and it was amazing. I met it was a cavalcade of Iggy Pop, Elvis Costello, the Ramones, and things like that. So I sat in on a couple of sessions, but I knew it was like you got to choose. You can either be a rock star or an actor. Way back early when I was a kid, I wanted to be a historian, like an archaeologist.
Okay, yeah. I think we talked about that in one of your after one of your class. Mm-hmm. We had a conversation about Egypt and all of that stuff.
Of theater. Yeah. I have a show that I'm gonna do, like a documentary, kind of one of those like British travel documentaries. But I want to start in Persia with the Epic of Gilgamesh, which it's basically the history of Western theater as compared to the great traditions of Japanese and Chinese theater and Philippine gamelan and the Japanese no theater and kabuki and all that. So I call it the history of Western theater technically, and start with back in Sumerian Babylonian civilizations where we first had it, and even go back further to the Stone Age, to the tribes that first got up, the shaman that first got up and put on the buffalo head and started dancing around going and reenacting performative ritual kind of thing. So going back to that, which I teach a theater history class sometimes, and that's what I do. I basically take it from the beginning periods right up to the Greeks, the very sophisticated Greek theater, which then grew into the Roman Commedia dell'arte all the way through Europe and the mummers and the sort of Shakespearean theater, culminating with the Shakespearean theater. And Shakespeare used a lot of history too, like in Hamlet, the player king and the traveling players. That was a Middle Ages, 9th, 10th century. There were a lot of these companies traveling from town to town who were ultimately gypsies, but they were performing gypsies. So they weren't scum of the earth, but they were almost. Like, and if you watch Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, Richard Dreyfuss playing the player king, and hilarious Tom Stoppard. They made the movie with Tim Roth and the wonderful and sublime Gary Oldman. And it's an amazing thing, but they're basically mayhem, murder, rape, all this stuff, which is all that stuff we watch nowadays on our television. So that was always very fascinating to me too. And history and archaeology and the combining that. I knew I couldn't be an oil painter or a poet and make enough money. Like I couldn't be a true artist. True artist. Sorry, I shouldn't say it like that. But I do a lot of oil painting and I read a lot of poetry and take photos and things. So I do a lot of art. But you had to find ways of making money. And my dad said that to me when we were doing theater, profit share theater back in the day. It was professional, but because we were all professional work and union equity and ACTRA members. But we would get together and do theater shows and produce them ourselves with Q Art Ensemble and Actors Lab and my own company, Theater Cathartic. So we do Sam Shepard plays, and at one point we did an experimental version of 12 Angry Men at the Actors Lab in Toronto, and it became kind of iconic. Most of the actors in it have gone on to professional careers and things, but my dad was, so how much did you make this month? To my buddy and I, Paul, one of my dear old friends, Paul Amato. We've done theater and film, and we've just been doing it together for years. And we were like, well, it's kind of like a profit share. So we have a group where we all put in $100 every month to have an operating budget. So 15 actors, $100 each membership. And then we use that as the budget to make the shows. And then anything after that was profit. Yeah, that's a good investment plan. But how much did you make this month? And we were like, well, it depends how many shows you do. But we were doing rep this month, and we were doing 12 Angry Men. So actually, I made $70. And he was like, for how many shows? And I was like, well, we're in rep, so technically 5 shows, 2 on the weekend, 3 depending, and then we go back and we do Medea, and then we come back to that. So he's like, $70 a month. Well, and he looks at Paul and I and he goes, boys, if you want to keep this going, you want to be living in garret attics, eating rice and beans, you're going to have to figure out a better way of making money at this.
Yeah.
And then it was like, how can you make more money out of it? And we were like,
well, luckily for us nowadays we have like websites from which investors can invest into our projects and
many
everything.
options as well.
Yeah.
Like back in that day,
But
there was film and TV, a little bit of mainly theater, a little bit of film and TV. But he said, how can you make more money? And I said, well, we could do TV and film, get a TV and film agent. And he said, well, I would highly suggest you get a film and TV agent then. And I did. I always follow my dad. So he's passed on, but I did, and I signed with David Karnick, and I always remember that for after doing a few gigs, getting little gigs, and then getting my union card. But when I got in the union after a year or so of plugging away at it, and got hired to play in a Mr. T vehicle, one of those action movie of the week kind of thing, and made $7,700 in 5 days work. And I got to take it to my dad and go, is this what you were doing? He goes, how much? Oh, he goes, don't you owe me a little? And I said, so
I need some of that money.
Your tuition or something? He said, no, I worked. But he said, put it reinvested. Good for you, son. Good. Yeah. And that was the beginning of turning into the money tap and going, what we call going to the Hollywood bank. Because not everybody wants to pay you to act. And there's been some gigs that, they don't have that kind of money. They don't have that kind of my rate.
Yeah.
So it's like, John, can you do this? And, that's why we have agents and unions, because otherwise we'd all be working for free. And even teaching, I can't throw it out there for free. So it's got to be, there's got to be some kind of exchange. And then nowadays we have, unprecedented opportunities in Toronto, throughout Canada, in the States, of course, but we have theater, we have film, we have television, we have web series, we have motion capture, we have performance capture, we have animation, we have magma, we have video games, we have commercials. So there's like 10 different disciplines that you can use to make this money. And I think that's why we see a lot of parents finally turning around and going, just backing off from you got to get a degree in STEM.
Yeah.
It's got to be science, technology, engineering, or medicine. And then it's like, well, there is a way, and it traditionally was the way out of the poverty was, sports or entertainment. Because we see so
well, you know what? There's actually some people that I know, and I personally went through that with my parents. It's that they have a certain, like their parents, so they're proud of you wanting to do something you like for a living. But there's also this thing where they kind of back down from supporting you into whatever dreams you have, because they want to make sure that you have enough money to survive also.
Absolutely.
And
for sure.
And the acting is, being an actor, it's in a very there's a lot of people that want to become an actor and don't make it into like a proper accomplished actor. And so for them, it's a little bit of an unstable job that you can have. And it is an unstable job when you think about it at the beginning. But if you work enough for it, then you can make it somewhere.
Many attempt, few succeed.
Yeah.
And there is always that 1%, like the John Depps of the world, that walk into the audition and, gorgeous, whatever. Hey, is he an actor? No, he's a rock star. He's want to audition for our series, auditions for it, and the next thing you know, he's doing 21 Jump Street, $300,000 a year. Woo. Yeah. Could we all be so lucky? So there's a couple of things we have to look at with that. Is one, meritocracy. Usually in a field, we go with meritocracy. We rise with our accomplishments. Yeah. But in this business, you're only as good as your last gig. You attach yourself to a bad vehicle, and suddenly you're in a movie that sucks, and nobody wants to touch it. But that's not really true. There is meritocracy in our business. You just have to keep it at the fore. You have to be aware that it's a proactive, progressive thing. You never stop learning. A lot of great actors never stop either going to school or working in workshop rehearsal situations with directors, trying to figure out how to get this mercurial, wonderful thing we call acting even in a more sophisticated one. And that definitely happened with video games, where originally they used athletes and stunt guys just because they needed them to do all the other stuff, like Grand Theft Auto, get out of the car. And so there was no acting. It was all just fake, fucking bombast. So then as the games got more sophisticated and the players got more sophisticated, they instinctually demanded that. So then they started saying, well, you should be using union actors. You should be using professional actors who know what they're doing. And the same thing happens in voice and all of that too. So suddenly you have an access way to improving your craft. But then when I got into video games, it was a whole new deal, right? And we were going through 200-page scripts, going, okay, we go to camera at 7:30, and it's like, well, we got to start. We stop talking about this, and we're dealing with actors, guys. We're not dealing with robots, in a good way. But it was like they didn't understand what we needed to do in order to, because you're doing it like a theater show. There's no, sorry, line, cut. They have to stop, and the whole thing has to go back to the square one. You have to go back to your T pose. So you sort of rehearse it like a theater show. Then once the cameras roll, and there's cameras all over the volume, and there's cameras up, handheld guys moving around you. A lot of distraction, but you have to get the whole scene, 4-page scene in. And I remember one of the new actors that was brought in on Watch Dogs 2, and we were all kind of used to it. We had been working as an ensemble, and then he came in, and I could see him dry. He went up, and he was like, sorry, line? Oh, no, none of that, man. T-pose, and shut it down. And the whole thing gets shut down. Then reset. They have to come in and retweak your focus. And he's like, we can't ask for a line? And I said, it's on TV, man. No, this is like theater. You got to do it from point one to point A to point B. That's it. And it's got to be perfect every time. And so when you have training in theater and that's the deal, then you can work with that. So that's the kind of thing where it's always necessary to realize how much you have to work at it to separate yourself from the crowd. It's a highly competitive field. If you can't do it, there's 10 people behind you that can. Right? And not what you do. You are unique. But it's like the old light bulb. How many light bulbs does it?
But everybody has something to bring that is different.
How many actors does it take to put in a light bulb? 5. One to do it, and 4 to sit back and go, I could have done that better, or I wouldn't have done it.
I've heard that before. I can't remember where, but I've heard that before. I think it might have been during one of your classes.
I use that one a lot because I want that to be a confidence booster. Like, you are unique. It's not you didn't get the part because you well, maybe you did. You shouldn't suck, of course. But if you went in and you nailed it, and you walk out and you didn't get it, or it went to somebody who you thought didn't do as good a job you did when you watched it on the series, that's kind of hard because you go, well, why didn't I get it? I was better than that. And it's like, because there was, maybe you were too tall. Maybe the co-star was 5'4" and you were 5'10", and it didn't work. Well, there's many things that go into it, and all you can do is just keep doing the best you can be. And every time we audition, we have an opportunity to get better. That's my know about that.
That's very important, to learn from your mistakes and get better at your craft, and
also
believing in yourself.
And learn from your successes. Know when when instinctually smoking, because that's the deal. I mean, as an actor, I've realized I thought I went in, I did a great audition, I thought I booked the part, didn't get it. Went in, did an all right audition, but actually thought I sucked, and I came out beating myself up and got the part. Right?
Yeah. You never know. It's very subjective.
Yeah, it is. And you have to keep that it's almost like rejection doesn't become your best friend, but you understand rejection. It's kind of like, hey, rejection, come here. It's okay. I understand. Yeah. It's your loss, not mine. I didn't need that 30 grand, but it's okay. I'll let you go, rejection. Go away now. Go back to your corner.
Yeah, I was told them so many times during the classes, like, when you get an audition, you need to do, even with my previous agency that I had before, like, you need to take it in, and then once it's done, and you let it go. Because if you are just there waiting to see if you got the part or not, then you're wasting all of that time, and you can get onto something else.
Absolutely.
And it's very important to be in the moment, and then you be in the other moment after, because if you stop there, it's not good for you. But just to close this interview a little bit, because we're running out of time.
Okay, yeah, no, I know.
So on your social media, you are often sharing celebrations that are derived from paganism traditions.
Right.
Do you feel a certain attractions towards it, or like, for example, for Christmas, lighting up the chimney, or like, do you feel any attraction towards that kind of practices?
First I'll say this: I'm a Tench. I'm a Celt.
Yeah. Yeah.
My ancestral line, we've traced it back. It goes back a long way. My dad got it back to the Normans. We came over with William the Conqueror from Tench in which is a place in Normandy in northern France, Tench.
Yeah.
So that was my old family seat. But then we traced it back even further to a tribe, a Celtic tribe in sort of around Germany, around the Black Forest, the Teutonic, well, not really Teutonic, but Germanic Celt, and called the Tencteri, which is also where the Toshbari came from. So we have a saying in my family: my ancestors go back in an unbroken line to the Celts who stopped Caesar on the banks of the Rhine. That was
my God.
Family limerick. So I've had a fascinado with, like a fascination, sure, but I guess that's where it comes from, because I read a lot of history. I read a lot. I've always an affinity with those cultures. I study them. I study where they came from and stuff. But I'm not necessarily a pagan. I'm pretty much multi-denominational.
Okay.
I'm spiritual more than I follow any. I was raised in the Christian church. I was an altar boy, and I lived in the
same here. I was raised in a Catholic church, basically.
I was raised in Anglican, but my dad was an Irish Roman Catholic. When he was C of E, Ottawa girl. The family weren't too happy about that, and they didn't talk to her much until she gave my dad and my older brother the firstborn son, and then all was forgiven and stuff. But it was pretty hardcore, and I think that's so unfortunate. The movie Belfast out right now, the troubles in Ireland, I was very well aware of it. Again, this isn't a political station. I'm pretty nonpartisan. But we realized these kind of things. And I am, like I said, a student of history. The Celts were running around in ancient Greece. Brennan, they defeated the Macedonians, and they went into Rome. And so, but I believe in whatever name you call it. I mean, there's that whole thing from the Lord of the Rings, the C.S. Lewis Narnia. You know me by another name in your country, but it's all the same, right? Godhead, whatever you may think. So I am a spiritualist. I believe in that. In sacred manner I live, to the heavens I gaze. My horses are many. It's kind of the Redman's Bible kind of thing, the First Nations spirituality. I recognize certain great things in Buddhism, certain great things in Hinduism, certain great things in Islam, Muslim, in Christianity, in Judaism, Rosicrucianism. It's all kind of a polyglot. And that's what I think, that's when we do the best. As humans, accept and tolerate all of these religions. And it's like, hey, man, you know them by another name. I say gods, you say God. But the pagans are neat, man. And again, I'm a Celt. I was probably running around in this lifetime, if you believe that kind of thing. I have an image of myself standing on some craggy, tree-covered hillside with a spear in my hand, looking out as the Roman legions. No pasaran. But I've been in a lot of cultures. I've lived in a lot of different countries. I've been in countries that have been dictatorships. I've lived in countries that were coming out of autocracy, like I was in Spain just near the end of Franco doing theater, like in the early 80s. And that was, it's crazy, scary what people are talking about in terms of what they think is a dictator. I mean, I've been there. I was in East Berlin before they took the wall down, trying to do some theater and in being smuggled into these underground little bars. through the back of a restaurant, across an alley, through a grated door, down another door, knock on the door. The guy opens it up. It was like a spy film, and just going in to do some theater for the poor East Berlin kids who just wanted freedom and wanted expression. So I know of which I stay. I was in Czechoslovakia. I went through on the train the Orient Express when I was traveling to Greece back when I was a young man, and a bunch of us got hauled off the train in Yugoslavia. And one friend that we were traveling with, a young black guy, New York, hip young black kid with passport and everything. Papeles, yo, took him off the train. And I was fighting for him. I was going, "Why are you doing it? He's in New York. He's an American citizen, man." And speak English, and they're like, "Yo, that's."
Yeah. But yeah, like to just to add to what you said, like it's there's this thing where I personally consider myself lucky because I grew up in a family where well, part of my family was very open into discovering into other religion, other cultures, and it brought me to where I am today, and it brought me to having the knowledge and the beliefs I have today. I don't consider myself as a religious person, exactly like you. I consider myself as a spiritual person, and that's from like a mix of every religion that I've met with, and I took what was pleasing to my life or fitting with my life, and I made it into my own belief in a way.
Because it's all about the same thing, and it's about on-set behavior, right? It's like be excellent unto others, and others will be excellent unto you. So the first commandment, love thyself and love others. I mean, that ultimately ends up covering them all. Because if you truly love somebody, you're not going to kill them. You're not going to envy them. You're not going to hurt them.
And everybody enters your life on the same level. Like it should be like that. Like everybody has a certain value to themselves, and it's important to respect that.
And I think we as storytellers, going back to that thing about, am I proud to be an actor? Am I privileged? And yes, as a storyteller, but I have a duty. I take on that mantle of responsibility that I have a duty to tell stories. I have a duty not necessarily to take sides unless it's something that is like, taking sides against the Nazis or whatever. But we do exist as a nonpartisan entity, but there's sometimes when we have to take a stand. But in terms of religion and politics, like when I teach in my classes, I've got a room full of people who've been raised in different faiths and things like that. So sometimes it comes up where, we'll be reading a scene and we'll have a curse word in it, and the person will say, "Gee gosh." And I'm like, "That's actually not what it says, Tony."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Yeah, I know what it says, but and I know." And I'm like, "Are you Christian? Are you Roman Catholic? You can't take the Lord's name in vain." And he's like, "Yeah." And I know, being raised in the church, and it's a carnal sin. I think it's a bit of a stupid rule, but I understand where it comes from, and it's sort of Middle Ages, but I don't really, but okay. So it was kind of like, okay, I get it. And he goes, "It's not just a sin, it's a carnal sin. It's hellfire."
Yeah.
And I realized in that moment, he's a man of faith, he's a man of belief, so it's okay. So look, it's not, and so I can fence with him and argue about it, but that's not my job as his spiritual leader. I'm his teacher in a different fashion. I'm his guru in a different side. So then I said, look, it's not you saying it, it's the character saying it. You are the mouthpiece for the character. And he said, "I'm still staining my lips as it comes out." And it was heavy. I was like, okay. So do you go to church? And he said, "Yeah, pretty much. I go to mass and every Sunday when I can." And I said, "Okay, so you're a reverend. That's great. I honor that. That's wonderful." And then I said, "Do you go to confession?" He said, "Why?" I said, "Well, do you go to confession?" He said, "Sometimes, if I have to." And I said, "Okay, well, this is a moment for confession, because do you have a priest? Do you have a man you talk to at the church? Do you have a father? Do you have your minister or whatever?" And he said, "Yeah, Father Rye." And I said, "Okay, go talk to Father Rye and find out. Ask him in confession and say, 'Sir, my teacher is asking me to say this, take the Lord's name in vain, and it's kind of bad, and I have to do it a few times.' And I knew." And his priest, who was probably pretty impressed, said, "Well, I think God in his infinite wisdom, Tony, sees that it's not you saying it, it's the character. It's the playwright. You are a vehicle for the message that has to be sent across. So if you can do it, but if you feel contrition, then I can give you some acts of contrition for it. That'll last you, a month or however long you're doing the play. And so, say 2 Hail Marys, go to Mass again, and give me a couple of Our Fathers, and everything is good to absolve. So, but that's recognition of his strength. And then I also say, look, there's Christian theater. If you want to do Christian theater, Christian cinema, there's places where they have that. PAX Channel, that's all they do, man. They do stories about, good, loving family stories and all that. For some of us who want to do crime dramas or do something a little bit, or drop an F-bomb, or not be restricted by those R restrictions that the church sometimes puts down, then that should be my level of acceptance and freedom of expression. So I recognize that in all, because again, there's certain things that where we cross, and I like to keep it as a polyglot camp where every opinion is valued and every belief is tolerated, but that's not the place for it.
Yeah.
You're not there to preach. You're not there to proselytize. You're not there to. I had that once kid who was trying to, recruit. He was born again Christian, and his monologues were always "Come unto Jesus," and I was like, "Hang on, dude."
Yeah.
Church, right? So you get this monologue, and he goes, "I wrote it," and I said, "You're proselytizing? You're preaching to my class? Souls in my theater class? Stops right here." So, but then I just monologue, and I said, "Look, there's a lot of religious monologues out there. There's like Rainmaker. There's like some great learning projects. There's wonderful monologues by priests or by sermons, but they're not written by you, and you're not definitely trying to get everybody to come to Jesus."
Yeah.
I don't want my class to turn into a weird episode of The Simpsons.
Yeah, definitely not.
You got to be tolerant, but there's a certain line where you go, look, everything goes here.
Yeah.
This is sacred space, but you have a synagogue, you have a church, you have a mosque. That's not here.
Yeah.
And it's not on set. And if you're going to be doing that on set, you're not going to be working a lot. Right?
Just to close into the podcast for today, because we're out of time. So someone that you inspire a lot, and a common friend between the two of us, Christian Dalton. Yeah, he wanted me to tell you that he values you a lot and he misses you.
Well, that brings up a point, Catherine. This is something I'm going to do, and I've checked into it a little bit. I'm going to start because of COVID, we're still in this, and we still have films, and it's been working pretty good. And I always mean to do this. I was going to open a studio in Toronto a couple of years ago, and I vetted this with Hart and everybody. But establishing an intensive workshop about once every couple of months or once a month, depending how we see things going. So I'll just run it by you here. It's a little bit of a plug for it. So I was hoping to start it up in February, but it looks like it's going to be March, and it's available to alumni, post-grads, alumni and professional actors and in the community, to have a one night a week, and I believe it's going to be a Monday night. I just got to check schedules, Monday or a Tuesday, a scene slam, where people bring scenes and work them with me as a coach, instructor, director. Like what we call scene slams, guys, are where people just come together. We try to get through as many as we can in the 4 hours. So that'll be a 4-hour scene slam, very reasonable. I have to charge something for maintenance fees and administration fees and that kind of thing. But I'll let you know what those rates would be. Very reasonable though, like way under the standard rates, and especially for my alumni, because it's something I want to get back to my post-grads, because a lot of you get out there and like Christian in that sense where it's like, well, sort of, what do I do now? Or my buddies aren't doing the same as my student buddies were doing. And that's why we birds of a feather flock together. It's like, I remember once we were all sitting around a table and do you guys have any other friends but actors? It's like, yeah.
No.
You're not as fun as I go golfing. But I'd rather be hanging with my actor buddies talking about movies 24/7. And that's true, right? And then we used to be at the Black Bull Tavern in Toronto, and there'd be a table of about 12 of us. Hey, did you get up for the program? You did. Are you doing the show? You going to the show tonight? Yeah, you better. Our call. No, I'm not drinking.
But it's true. I like, even like as an actor, like I consider myself being friend with only actors right now, because like there's a certain understanding between actors where you know, like when you're an actor, you're very vulnerable. You're showing and you're portraying the true self, that who you are.
Absolutely.
And and it's very nice to have people that understands that, and that respects, that has a certain level of respect for you, because you're showing them who you truly are. And so my friends in Toronto are only actors.
Yeah. And I call them my shield brothers and my shield sisters, because nobody else is in the same thing that we're doing, and nobody understands what we have to go through. And I love my other friends. I love my sisters and my brothers, but they're the ones that are entertained by us. And I have a lot of those too who, Tench, I love what you do, man. But you know, and we don't hang out a lot, but they, you know, when we do get together, we get together as friends. But for the most part, most of my good friends, my near set, are fellow actors or actors or filmmakers. So just in that, so we all want someplace to go. So, and people have been after me for a while about this. I was going to establish, and I will be doing that this summer when we get back from COVID. I'm going to establish a working studio in Toronto called Tench Workshops. It's actually the Tench's Academy of Dramatic Art for Gifted Actors.
It's like the X-Men.
You asked again what series would have, like X-Men,
X-Men.
I'd be all over. DC, they just got Moon Knight.
Like, but there was a big tragedy though with the guy, right? The actor that was chosen for that.
Chosen to play him. Mark Dave Bislin. Yeah, and Ethan Hawke was going to be in it as the rap. Like, it would have been a great series. Keanu was too old. It took too long for them to get to him. He was going to do it 10 years ago, and then they ended up doing it. But so for a place for us to all get together, so Professor Tench's School for Gifted Young Actors. But I did want to establish, and it's not just young actors. There's a lot of people, professionals, who are going to be working with us as well. So I want to establish that as a one night a week. On like I said, on Monday, Tuesday. Traditionally, Monday is dark night in the theater, so that way people can, you know, and after the weekend you come back and it's okay. I got a few things to do on Monday. I could do that, and then so it'll be like a 3 or 4 hour scene slam Monday nights on Zoom, and I'll provide the links. And then once a month or once a fortnight, as I see how it goes. But it'll probably pick up to being once a month or twice a month, depending on summertime. Where I do a weekend intensive. So it'll be a 12-hour, like 6 hours each day, 6 hours on Saturday, 6 hours on Sunday with a lunch break and breaks. So the whole thing would, you know, be like 10 to 6. But pretty much hard or nose down, grinding the nose down on those days. And that would be, again, a very reasonable rate. Probably I'm going to do the weekend intensives for an investment, like for $199, $200 for that 2 6 hour days, and then you get tape out of that session, and you get to keep whatever we've taped, whatever files we may have, and a few like circulars that I put out and things like that. And so I'm going to be getting that going, because we've been noticing there's a little bit of a lack in the post-production stuff.
And just to conclude everything,
but I'm going to send that to you, because you're real helpful, and I know you gotta take off. But I just wanted to get that. I know a lot of people have been asking me about it, and I don't want to sort of necessarily advertise it. I want it to spread by word of mouth. First part, just to make sure I get a good, some good serious people and stuff. And gosh knows there's enough of us within the umbrella of postgrads, and a lot of you guys are still in touch. My buddies, my student grads from years back, Liam, Nate, Burbank, all those guys are still working together. So Toronto is just such a hotbed of inspiration and creativity. So I want to take advantage of that, and then that will eventually end into creating the theater company and a kind of a production company out of that as well. And I'm going to get a space in Toronto that hopefully will pay for itself, sort of thing, but a big, 1,000 square foot warehouse space kind of thing that we can all go and work at once we get back. But in the meantime, I'm going to do that on Zoom, as well as my class load at TFS, so you can maybe spread that word too amongst the hoi
I will
polloi
definitely.
and the postgrad community. And I'll go through you, Catherine. I'll let you know. I'll probably have somebody assisting, just coordinating and stuff, which we'll get free classes, or we may have a rondelay of people doing that, because I got some great. Some of you guys are great too, and then that establishes us as a company as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like
anything you need, I'm here. From the beginning, I'm always here to help.
That's ultimately what Stanislavski did with the Moscow Art, right? He realized there were so many people that wanted to work together all the time.
Yeah.
Whether we get paid, or whether on grants, or whether we're on things, or whether we're just coming in as an investment, and that would all be tax write-offs. And if anything, I have a benevolent society, so most of that would be going to charity, or going back to you guys, or going to trying to establish, like, I have a short I want to get filming this spring. It's pretty short. There's only a couple of actors on it, but it's about the border wall in the States. And it was a show we did a number of years ago. It's a theater show called Un Dia de la Vida, Les Desaparecidos. It's about the people who disappear on the border down Brooks County, things like that. And it's a really neat two-hander between a border patrol officer, a white border patrol officer, Texan, and a young Mexican guy migrant worker coming up to work and leading his family behind. And it's a beautiful little thing. And I want to do it as a short, utilizing some of the Toronto Film School stuff for that. And I've got a couple actors picked out, and the ongoing work in the short program, as you guys know, there's a lot of post-grad stuff that gets done, and that we're very proactive about, whether that's through Melly Rondo or Kirsten Johansson just finishing her great film Straw Man. And it's
I'm actually an actor in her movie. So
excellent. Good to hear.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a like in front actor. I'm more like a background actor, but still. I was invited.
A bunch of club scenes and stuff. And Joe Dancy, man, what a great Joe Dancer. Love him to death. He's love him to life.
It's gonna be. I'm very confident towards that movie, because I know the backstory of like what it is and everything. But I'm very confident, and I know Kirsten a little bit from classes, and I'm really excited to see where that movie goes. And I'm actually going on that set this week. So
and that's great. And it's been an ongoing project of love and things like that, but there is going to be a lot of good dividends. And it's not all about the money. I mean, I was talking before about how important the money is, but it's also getting the experience, staying tied in, following your instincts, following the instinctual feed that you get from this great thing that we do.
So on that note, I will have to end the podcast here.
I'll send you that information, and you can start to disseminate it and put it out.
Of course, I will
be talking to you about that, because I did want to bring that up, and I thought I'd do it here rather than typing it
by
out.
message.
So that's great seeing you. And this term I'm waiting to hear on a couple of gigs and stuff. So hope always springs eternal, and I've got a couple of things, but it's going to be a great spring. I've got lots of irons in the fire, and I seem to be able to do them all. And one of the great things about Zoom is you can, as long as you get a link, you can pretty much do it from anywhere.
All right. So on that note, I will talk to you after I end the broadcast. And then, but I say goodbye to everybody else.
Yes, in regards to everybody, thanks for coming, thanks for listening. And Catherine's doing great work with these streaming broadcasts. So a lot of great information to hear, and hopefully we'll be able to do one more, and once we get a few more things happening. But keep your eye out for one of my new video games coming out, Siege of Paris. I got work in that, Valhalla, Siege of Paris, and a couple of other things. And some new TV shows coming out, and some new feature films, and I'll keep you apprised of that. So check me out on Facebook, check me out on Twitter, check me out on IG.
Bye.
Stay strong, everybody.